person. You're entering CNBC TV 18's virus-free studio, powered by Century Laminates and Century Ply.
Welcome back. You're with us on Closing Bell. Well, let's turn the spotlight on yet another interesting stock that's been a talking point today, and I'm referring to Ashok Leyland. Now, it's still up 3.5%. We caught up with the management to really understand if there is light at the end of the tunnel, and the management said, yes, there is. They're saying the demand is picking up, and in fact, it's supposed to get even better in the month of October. Hear it out from Anuj Kathuria.
E-commerce is showing a lot of promise, and that is what is driving the intermediate commercial vehicle segment. We also saw a lot of demand coming from fuel dispensing. A lot of, with the two-wheeler, pass car, FMCG, white goods, all these industries picking up, a lot of logistic requirements are coming up. Setting up of micro hubs is also trying to, everybody is trying to revisit their logistics models. The customers are looking for much shorter delivery times. Even if somebody is ordering certain things online, they would like to receive it much faster than the earlier days. So definitely with this, the requirement of vehicles, the tonnage of the vehicles, the lead times that is being, the lead distances, all this is undergoing a change.
Okay, Prakash, you tell us, buy, sell, or do nothing, Ashok Leyland.
I think it's definitely a big turnaround in sentiment for this stock, Surbhi. But when I listen to the management, the question that comes to my mind is what has changed? I mean, why would all this not be required even earlier? So what's happening is there is a catch-up that it's playing. I agree, but I think the anticipation is more. Because we've seen kind of turnaround times improve. The tolling has become much more efficient. It takes much. So the sweating of products, the sweating of their vehicles with fleet operators is in fact improved. So this kind of is a little bit of a question mark for me. But my larger this thing is when you hear the commentary from fleet operators, when you do your channel checks, you'll realize what all of them are expecting is that there is a very serious element of expectation building around the scrappage policy. And if that were to happen, then things could be very different because a majority of trucks in India are actually not eligible from the kind of criteria that we've been kind of plodding along with. We've been too soft on usage of old inventory and things like that. So if that changes, then my guess is there would be a little bit of a sparkle here. But otherwise, things remain the same. We always had FMCG wanting to set up warehousing. E-commerce has just has replaced what we were doing with the Kirana stores earlier. So it's not something which is dramatically changed, but I think it's more to do with the catch-up that the stock has played. So it would probably be given some time to rest here. I don't think you make money at $75 as much as you did at sub 50 levels, which it was just about 3-4 months back.
Okay, fair enough. Prakash, before we let you go, just one last word I want from you. Before that, let's go across to Rima because, this two listings that Surbhi spoke about. Both these, if you see the charts of late, you started to see Route Mobile and Happy Mind, of course. You've seen quite a bit of decline in both these stocks. So let's first go across to Rima, if she is with us. Rima, tell us, Route Mobile, in fact, hit circuit today.
Absolutely. It's in a lower circuit of about 10%. Both Happiest Minds and Route Mobiles were the darling of, the primary markets. They saw bumper subscription. Happiest Minds got oversubscribed 150 times, while Route Mobile had a subscription of 74 times. Route Mobile, the reason it's down is because the anchor investor lock-in has ended. The anchor investors put in at a price of, 350 rupees, which means they're, it's doubled in a span of about 1 month. So there is some profit booking on account of that. That said, the stock, has also seen a correction from its recent high of 988. Happiest Minds has fallen in line with the rest of the IT pack, which is going through a patch of correction. Now, Happiest Minds has corrected 17% from its top. It's still double compared to its issue price of 166, and its valuations continue to be comparable to pairs like a Mindtree, LTI, despite it being much smaller in size. Back to you.
Thanks a lot for that. Now, Prakash, either of the two, both, none, what would be the call?
No, I think fairly logical in terms of the way Reema explained. There's still double of the issue price at least, Anuj, and that's interesting. In fact, there are names which are sub offer price also, or sub listing price, sorry, in a significant way. But here, interestingly, Happiest Mind will start featuring in most IT portfolios at some point or the other, at lower levels particularly, because of the kind of profile that it pursues, right? And then when it was offered in the IPO, I don't think it was priced very steeply or richly. So even at, let's say, this correction that it has come to, I think it probably merits attention. Route Mobile is a bit lumpy. You will probably see a few very strong quarters, and then there could be some consolidation happening. So that earnings profile is something which we still need to understand. I wouldn't really put my money in such an elevated valuation. There are better names like Tanla, which are probably in similar areas of work which can offer you good opportunities, comparable at least. But Happiest Minds is where I would still want to bet, especially because it's kind of corrected and the exuberance has come off, given the environment that we are in for IT companies.
Okay, Prakash, take your point. Thanks a lot for joining us. Have a good weekend. I will talk to you next week. Let's move on then. N. Jayakumar is joining us, Managing Director at Prime Securities. Jakes, good afternoon. Thanks as always for joining us. Now, this market has been quite curious, right? It had a violent shakeout last month from 11,800 all the way down to 10,800, and then perhaps even faster than that we saw a move to 12,000. Now, do you reckon this is another violent shakeout which needs to be bought?
Absolutely. In fact, if you remember, even when we mentioned last, we said the fluidity of the up move will be something that will surprise all of us. Actually, if you see right from the 9,000 levels, the up move, every time it was swift and sharp, it essentially meant that participation was limited. The first time in this entire move from 9 onwards when the real consolidation happened was, I think, between 11.1, 11.2 and 11.6, where it kept churning and taking people in. And the final move, which was a very labored move to 11,800 before the fall, and in that one fall, virtually everybody sort of got cleaned out. And therefore, the next up move is ready to happen with much less participation. And that's why you saw a 1,000-point move virtually in 2.5 weeks. Then again, I think with participation coming in, the sharp fall, and I think this is going to be the way forward. That because there are algos at work, people are seeing charts quite similarly, people are reacting quite similarly. And now the people are sort of watching channels like yourselves, which talk about this level breaks, get out. So a lot of people who are obviously a lot more day traders in. So people are exiting at the same time, and therefore the exits tend to be extremely violent and almost impossible to sort of swallow, as it were. But the way I see it is that the up moves are just fluid because participation is limited. And I think it's no different even this time, where people have got on to the likes of, so in a move like this, I mean, at 10,800, Bharti was at 590. In a move like this, it's at 400. So therefore, the consensus is getting busted. What people are doing together is not turning out right. And I personally believe it's a bit of an anti-consensus or a contrarian market, much more than ever, even from a trading perspective. And I'm very confident that we will touch new highs soon. I see 11.3, 11.4 as a kind of a base for the moment, and a move to 12.3, that's probably the 1,000-point range the market is in as we speak.
Okay, that's an interesting point. Jakes, hi, good afternoon. Good to have you on the show. You say this is an anti-contrarian market. Can you expand on that? Because till now, last 6 months, it's just been one big herd trade, the COVID trade, as I like to call it. You buy pharma, you buy telecom, you buy IT, and you just sit on it, right? So what now?
So I said it's an anti-consensus market. So it is a completely contrarian. You've got to go against the herd in a sense. So if the consensus was buy telecom, that hasn't worked out. Strangely, even a month and a half ago, the consensus was everybody said Reliance has to be, we've got to be neck deep in Reliance, and that's absolutely a must for every portfolio. And surprise, surprise, in the last 1,000-point move, Reliance has hardly contributed. Okay, so the market is going through these phases, these cycles, if you will. And I think the time may have come for the next contrarian trade to play out, which is two sectors where there are some green shoots, but everybody's on everyone's hate list, which is real estate and the NBFC space and the PSU space. Now, NBFC stroke financial services, if you will. So if you take, and just allow me to expand on this, the financial services space, because everybody has been diluting private sector banks, there's been almost no movement after the dilution because the market is getting fresh supply of paper from the issuer, and therefore there is no need for people to go out to the market in a sense and buy. The one stock which is standing out, and I'll make a disclosure here, I don't talk stocks, but this particular one I will because I'm referring to it, which is the largest in the game, is SBI. And I have a vested interest to the extent that I have shares of SBI between me and my family members. And SBI has not, surprise of surprises, gone out to raise capital like many of its illustrious private sector counterparts. So I think a non-dilutive but a hated sector dominant player could be one of the leaders into the next move, which could take the index to 12.3, 12.4. That's number one. Some of the well-capitalized, hated NBFCs with large, let's say wholesale portfolios or portfolios where people have been searching for some retail move, I think those could be surprise plays into the next move. So financial services, maybe a PSU bank, maybe, as I said, some of these, that could be one space. People have been talking about green shoots in the real estate space. I think real estate is ready to move. Prices are coming off. More importantly, the mortgage rates have come down to decade or lifetime lows. And I think some amount of buying will get triggered as more and more people spend time at home. People will want smaller, maybe more flats, more place to stay for the same number of members, resulting in a demand for incremental real estate. That's two. And the third, which I think is not the least of that, being linked to some, it's been a space that's underperformed for multiple decades virtually, which is the PSU, the PSU basket. I feel if the government were to get one or two strategic steps going, like a big bang divestment, for instance, which we've been thirsting for, or for that matter, some out-of-the-box thinking. We've talked about PSU bonus debentures as one idea, and we can dwell on that at some point in time. But I think it's an idea whose time has come where, simply put, if there is no demand for PSU equity, can the government use the PSU balance sheets to load them up with debt such that rating doesn't change and the demand for the debt is huge? So the same divestment can be met through PSU bonus debentures, which is not possible to meet through divestments in a portfolio sense, which means these regular sell-off of 2%, 3% that they keep doing, which only hurts their holding, the governments, for instance, and also hurts the entire set of investors who've bought into those. So if you take the PSU space with some out-of-the-box thinking, number two, and government infrastructure spending, I'm assuming, will be coming. Number two, the financial services space with a contra being the PSU, maybe one or two banks there. And the third being the real estate space, maybe residential real estate.
Got that.
Could be the contra.
Got that. Now, Jake, so we'll perhaps discuss this, this theme, this PSU theme in a bit more detail later on, and perhaps do a slightly detailed show on that. This is a very interesting topic that you're referring to. But pharmaceuticals. I remember, you had been quite bullish, on some of these names like Aurobindo, Divi's, etc. But is this rally getting saturated now, or you think this is still in the middle of a big move?
See, I think if you take a multi-year move, I think it's the middle of a big move. But in the short run, have people loaded themselves up with pharma stocks and they are in some sense correcting or stagnating or consolidating? Quite possible. So I am no one to say that gratification needs to be instant. But if you see the gratification that these stocks have given you over the last few months, they've kind of virtually taken care of the next 2-3 year returns in 6 months' time. So why should we, allow, just because we've got to pharma, that we are sort of, ordained to get returns in every time we buy? That's not the case. Having said that, I think the theme for these overowned spaces is you now need to get stock specific. So it's possible that a telecom space, the most hated, may perform, and the one that everyone liked and believed that, was part of a duopoly, would be the biggest underperformer as we've seen. A 1/3 drop represents that. So, strange things happen in life and strange things happen in the markets as well. For those who love cricket, then you'll understand that for an RCB to have its, the best one-day player in the world batting at number 6 could be a strange decision. And so we've got to keep encountering these strange kind of things in life. And from that perspective, yes, Oro or Divi's or whatever these names are, everybody might like them, but they may not perform in the short run. In fact, possibly for that reason. But are they in the middle of a multi-year bull run? I think the answer.
Okay, we lost that line at the very critical point. I think he was going to say the answer is yes on companies like Divi's and Oro. So you're saying in a longer time span, you would still give the businesses a thumbs up, Divi's and Oro?
Absolutely would, but I think we need to have patience. Investing is not about getting instant gratification.
Jake, so quick question then on the whole consumer play, because we've seen a lot of flurry in the build-up to the festive season, whether it's the durable guys or you look at auto sales. I mean, those numbers are looking better now. But the question is, do you see it as a sustainable trend? What would you pick in discretionary consumption at the moment?
I think, frankly, that's not a space I quite like. And my own feeling is, while it makes for great TRPs and regular month-on-month reporting, I'm not too sure if there is anything in that space that's going to lead to unexpected upsides than whatever has happened. So, not my favorite cup of tea for the moment.
Okay, fair enough. That's of course autos. Metals have had a big move today, Jake. Any thoughts?
So, I think that the theme is going to be long periods of time, zero to low interest rates. I think there is no option but to get into that cycle. So while I believe that we are in for a much longer haul than was originally envisaged as far as this pandemic is concerned, which means more of us are going to work a lot more from home and thankfully enjoying it, if I may add. We're going to work a lot more differently than ever before. But the reality also is that the world has to move on, the economies have to move. So while there are series of re-lockdowns, etc., but demand for some of this is restarting. China is leading the demand surge in a sense. So I think metals could be a contra play, not talked about adequately, and could therefore represent a contra play which I didn't talk about, but metals could be there.
Metals could be. So, Jakes, you said all-time high. This year, possible?
Likely.
And next year then, further gains?
So, see, the way I see it is that, and there's a thesis again to this, which is that the index is being represented by companies that are becoming more dominant, more preponderant, in the sort of stuff that we are doing. So technology is becoming, the spends on technology are going up dramatically, whether at the unit level, the cell level, at the household level, or at the corporate level. Technology, therefore, rightly, is finding a larger weightage in the index. So also pharma. And Reliance, we've talked about, has taken on a bigger share. So if these are the kind of higher spend areas and therefore higher dominance areas, it isn't a matter of surprise that we're reaching new highs on the index, because the index is a reflection of these. So, are we in the middle of a continued bull market? I think, if anything, the big drop in March was the aberration that shook everybody out, changed people's opinions, lives, and, surprise of surprises, because of technology, we've just moved back into those zones of 11 to 12,000, almost as if nothing had happened. So could we hit 12.5 this year? I think likely. Could we go significantly higher? I think we'll see the way it goes, but it wouldn't surprise me, because the index is not the universe of investments right now. And that's the point I'm saying. People don't have all their money in the index. And that's why every time the index hits a new high, the components that hit are the most, underinvested in some senses. Because everybody was invested in the ones that move. Life is not that charitable to allow everybody to make money at the same time.
Got it, Jakes. Well, thanks a lot. Before that, what's that painting? It's looking beautiful.
That's it's a Tanjore actually. So it's part of the stuff that keeps the cheer going at home.
Okay, and by the way, the last weekend Premier League was quite stunning, right?
I was hoping.
Look, I mean, I think it was worse for me, but it's just out of nowhere. It just tells you that 2020 has been really unique year.
Well, I'd like to believe it was something to do with that, but I think what's happening is the English Premier League. I mean, if you really want to spend 30 seconds, is a league where literally any team can beat any other team, much like the IPL. So to that extent, it's under the high lines that people are playing. I think defenses are getting compromised. So more goals this year. The new penalty rule, which is kind of absurd in many senses, but no taking away from the fact that 7-2 was a disaster. You might say 6-1 was worse, but frankly, I think we need to hang our heads in shame. Liverpool really, I mean, hopefully this weekend will change things around a bit.
And yeah, I don't have too many hopes. You have, of course, Jakes. Thanks a lot for joining us. Have a good weekend. Always good talking to you. And of course, we'll interact with you on some of the special topics that you are raising. We'll take a break with the news that the market is still almost at the high point of the day, at least on the Bank Nifty. We'll come back with the BTSC calls. Also, we'll tell you what to expect from HDFC Bank and Avenue Supermart's numbers. Both of these numbers come out tomorrow. So if you want to trade on numbers, perhaps the last 15 minutes for you. We'll be also there after the break.